Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of Legal Legends podcast. I'm your host, Rudy Rodriguez Shoma, and I have another legal legend with me today. What this attorney has done in 15 years is nothing short of amazing. He's created opportunities for so many people who work for him, not just in his office in South Florida, but all around the world. And when I tell you he is a giving man, he has donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to his law school, FIU, Florida International University. I'm going to introduce you to him. You're going to learn his story, his why, where he's from, all that good stuff today. I got with me the one and only Abe Ovadia, Ovadia Law Group. Welcome aboard, Abe.
What's up, Rudy? Thanks, man, for the introduction. That's beautiful. I need to have you talk to my wife and intro me to everybody moving forward. I love it. It's beautiful. Thank you.
I have learned some stuff over my time doing a sports podcast. So I've gotten better and better at this, and I've always wanted to do a legal podcast since I've been with Synergy, as I am the VP of a strategic partnership with Synergy, and always give people that I work with and people that I know an opportunity to share their story. And I appreciate you coming on with me today.
Thank you.
Let's jump in. I mean, your background. Your mother was from Cuba, came
Yeah.
here as a teenager. Talk about, you know, living that experience, because obviously my father came here when he was 16, so we probably from that same cloth.
Yeah.
Tell people about your background in that regard.
Yeah, sure. I was born in Miami Beach. My mom, Cuban, came here when she was about 14. Her parents told her, "Hey, you're gonna go live in Pennsylvania with your sister." Her older sister came here. She married her pen pal, her older sister, and moved to Pennsylvania from Havana, Cuba. And so they said, "Hey, you're gonna go live with your sister for the summer, a year, whatever, and then come back." And never went back to Cuba. Castro announced that he was socialist and this and that. And shortly after, the rest of her family came, except for one uncle who said, "Hey, I got a job in the new government. These guys are great people." He ended up, staying there, and things didn't turn out so well for him. My father came here, Jewish, born in Egypt, came here. Nasser was expelling all the Jews from Egypt. So then they met here in Miami and had this amazing, beautiful little boy named Abraham. I grew up, Miami Beach. And then I went to FAU. We moved to Boca Raton when I was 10. I went to FAU for undergrad, FIU Law for law school. Super lucky to get into that school at that time. It was a brand new school. And I had applied there in Nova, and I got into Nova, but the tuition was 5 times as much, and FIU was a fifth of the price, something very, very cheap and very reasonably priced. And so I, like a week before school started, they called me, "Hey, do you want to come?" I was like, "Bye, Nova." And so that's why I did the donation that you mentioned to FIU, because I love that school. It's done so much for me. My time there was awesome. I had a great time in law school. The students that were there, the the professors were incredible, and I just learned so much and grew as a person there. And that's why I decided to give back to the school as well.
Talk about your mother came here when she was. What year did your mother come from Cuba?
Like 50, 54, something like that. I don't know. I'm bad with math, man. I think it's like 54 or something.
Castro. I mean, my father came. Castro got there in
Oh,
'59. My father came in '61.
oh,
Yeah, he came in
I don't
'61
know,
when he was
man. It
16.
was like right before Castro announced that he was
Okay.
like going. He had that famous
That
speech. It was right before then. I don't know.
yeah, they knew. They
Yeah,
knew what was gonna happen.
yeah,
And your parents met here, so in
yeah.
Miami Beach. So it's funny because I was born and raised in Miami Beach,
Oh,
and
okay.
I saw on your profile that you went to Biscayne Elementary.
Yeah.
I went to St. Joseph's School
Oh,
right next to on 86 and Hawthorne Avenue.
okay.
I grew up on Stillwater Drive.
Okay.
Where did you grow up in Miami Beach?
I literally grew up, Normandy Isle.
Yeah,
It's like right,
yeah.
yeah, right there. Yeah.
Yeah, I lived that was the first place I moved to when I moved out of my parents' house.
Oh,
Normandy
okay.
Isle. I had a little efficiency attached to a house right on Normandy
Oh,
Drive.
so when
Um,
you go into Normandy Isle to the
mhm.
left,
Yeah.
that's the apartment building that I lived in, and I
Oh,
actually
wow.
it's a two-story building, and I took my son there like I don't know a few years ago. I said, "Hey, let's go check out where Daddy grew up," because he
Yeah.
knows nothing but big houses and whatever. So I
Yeah.
took him and I showed him the apartment building, and I said, "So Daddy used to live right there. That's the
Mm.
place."
Yeah.
And he points at the whole building. He goes like from here to here. He goes, "That was
No.
your house? That's huge." And I was like, "No, dude, it was from
Mm.
that door to that window." He's like, he couldn't comprehend like living in an apartment. It was crazy to me. We
Hey,
lived three of us in a one-bedroom apartment. I don't know
it's
how we did it, but
it's the blessings that you brought to your kids and your family for sure. Because yeah, I
yeah,
mean, my father would tell me his stories about living in a one room with 4 people at 16 and, letting reminding me of how spoiled and lucky I was and the whole
yeah,
9 but yeah, I grew up right there, Crespi Park, Tatum Park, Stillwater Park, right around the corner
okay.
from this. My mom was a substitute teacher of Biscayne Elementary. That's why I brought it up.
Oh,
So
cool.
I know that was probably, I mean, before you, because 'cause I'm 47, you're what, like 41, 42,
41, yeah, yeah,
41.
yeah.
Um,
40
but
something,
no,
yeah.
it's a small world because,
Yeah.
I was when you were going to school there, I was probably living 5 minutes away.
Oh, so you know North Shore Park right there
Yeah, I played
across the street?
baseball
So
there.
okay, so did you know somebody died on the baseball field when I was a kid? Somebody like
Oh,
died there. But anyways, yeah, there was
no.
I don't know, that was the
Wow.
thing. But I would play
Yeah,
tennis
no,
there every day.
murdered or just died?
Like
Murdered
murder.
or
Yeah,
Oh, no,
murder.
I
Yeah.
remember that. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah. So I would play tennis there every day. My brother was 10 years older than me, and he was
Yeah,
like not a pro or anything, but he was always playing tennis. So I was the
yeah,
10-year younger brother. So I would go out there and just play tennis all day after school till the sun went down. We
okay.
didn't have video games and whatever and my mom was working, so I would just play tennis all day, and
Mhm.
then I'd walk to school, walk home, and go get my tennis racket and play.
Yeah, no.
It was a good young couple years to do till we were 10.
Do you still do you watch tennis?
I don't watch tennis. I mean, I can get out on the court and hit a couple balls, but
Mhm,
I'm nowhere. I let my brother do that. He's good at that. I for exercise, I like going to the gym and stuff like that more.
mhm.
I got no hand-eye coordination. I'm not gonna lie. I picked the practice of law for a reason, man.
So
Um,
tell me about
yeah,
FIU. I mean, FIU was
yeah,
a new school. Obviously,
yeah,
like you mentioned, 5 times less than what Nova cost. But
yeah.
so
Super cheap. Yeah.
you were in the infancy of FIU. You were one of the first classes, I presume.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, so we started I think I started in 2006, the fall of 2006. Our first classes were in the Green Library in in the South Campus,
yeah.
which was like the main library for the students of FIU undergrad.
Mhm,
And then like a month or two in, something like that, we moved into the brand new law school. And I
yeah.
remember walking in there as a class. We just walked in and I'm looking around. It's like a palace, man. Like, what is this place? This is beautiful. So we got to break in the new school. It was awesome. They opened the library, the law library, which was beautiful. And just the students, I think everybody, I don't know if it's still like that, but everybody was very friendly. We had a great camaraderie. They shared outlines with each other, a lot of study sessions, just like very chill environment to nothing like what you see in the movies. Everybody's competing against each other. They're hiding books from their classmates to give them, it's like none of that. It was very good experience and made a lot of good friends there. For sure, lifelong friends. Yeah,
So you start your law firm as soon as you graduate. I mean, you came in
pretty much.
during a recession where the real estate
Yeah,
market had bombed. We're in the major foreclosure crisis at that time,
yeah,
and I saw you start your law firm out of your mother's apartment.
yeah, dude. So the truth is, no one would hire me. Like, I
Yeah.
didn't know anything.
Hmm.
I don't blame anybody for not hiring me. The place that I did work at, I think I was getting like, I don't know, 17 bucks an hour. I started at 15. I worked there 2 years during law school. And then, that was down in Miami. I moved back up to Del Rey, which is where my mom was living. I moved back up to Del Rey after law school because, I
Hmm.
didn't have a student housing anymore. So I was driving to Miami every day, and the money that I spent on
Oh,
gas was my paycheck.
yeah.
And no one would hire me. I applied at a couple places. No one wanted me. One place, it was so funny. You think, okay, now I'm a lawyer. So you go into a interview and they go, well, how much do you want? And they literally go, write it down on a piece of paper. So I wrote it down and I pushed the paper forward and they go like, no, we're not prepared. And they wrote down like 36,000 on the piece of paper and they pushed it back towards me. And I'm like, dude, I go, I was making $36,000 a year working at the mall when I was in undergrad. I was like, what are you talking about? I went to law school. And they go, so I thought it was like a negotiation. So I wrote down a little bit bigger number than less of what I wanted, but more closer to their number. They were like, no, man. And the truth is I didn't know anything. And, there was a bad time in the economy, right? It was like 2009 when I graduated. So I just decided, I said, hey, I'm just going to go out on my own, work out of my mom's place. I'll make enough money to, pay my student loans, pay some bills. No problem. Everything will be okay, And I just worked out of there until I couldn't anymore. My mom, she's Cuban. She doesn't like a messy place. I had demand letters I was doing just PIP suits at that time. I had stacks and stacks of demand letters. Like this pile was for Geico. This pile was for State Farm. And I had them all over. And one day I come home and the whole table's clean. It looks beautiful. And I go, Mom, where's all my legal documents? And she's like, no, I put them over there in the corner. They were messing up the whole table. And I was like freaked. I was like, Mom, I remember as an adult lawyer, Mom, these are important legal documents. You can't just go touching them like that. And it is so embarrassing and just emasculating. So that was when I knew I had to move out.
Were you living there with your mother at
I
the
was
time?
living there. Yeah, I was living there, and I had one guy coming in the office, which was the living room, and working. And I remember the HOA. They go, it is a condo. And the HOA goes like, hey, who's this guy coming here every day? Comes at 8, he leaves at 5. So I was like, oh no, he's just my friend. We hang out all day. Like, leave us alone. It was a 55 and up community. You know how these people get. So they were all nosy. So anyways, we ended up, I moved into a 1-bedroom apartment here in Boca called Boca Arbor Club. I don't remember what I was paying, but it was cheap. And that was my first time. In law school, I lived on my own, but moving back out on my own as a lawyer. And I ended up having 3 people working out of that 1-bedroom apartment. I didn't want to get an office. I didn't think like, man, having an office, it's too expensive. I was afraid to take that jump. So I ended up having 3 people working out of my 1-bedroom apartment. It was the weirdest thing. I'd wake up, there's 3 people already working in the office, in the living room. I had no living room. It was desks. I had 3 desks and like a small couch in front of the TV. So bizarre. Yeah.
So you're waking up in the morning and they're in your house.
They're there. Yeah. I mean, back then I would be out all night. I'd be up working all night. And so I'd wake up, let's say like 8 o'clock, and they're already there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I had an attorney actually working out of my apartment, super nice person. And she was like a friend of a friend. And I remember one day I heard her talking outside on the phone to her friend. And she's like, dude, this is so weird. I'm working out of this guy's apartment, because you couldn't get a job back then. It was impossible.
I mean, I worked in a law firm. I was in a law firm as an office administrator, and foreclosure was everything. Like if you didn't, if you didn't want to work in foreclosure, you really couldn't find a job too many places. And I mean, realistically, the foreclosure industry kind of destroyed lots of people's resumes at the time, because they would go from law firm to law firm to law firm, foreclosure spot to foreclosure spot to foreclosure spot, and then they all wanted to get out of foreclosure. And then you're trying to, and then after that I was doing staffing for a minute for about 2.5 years, and you get the resume. Staffing, if you were I don't know if you ever hired a staffing agency, but if you hire a staffing agency, you want someone you can slot right in to get to work. Not someone that you have to train and say, well, this is what you do in a PIP suit. This is like, stuff like that. And they would be almost unemployable. And
because they only knew foreclosure.
All they knew was foreclosure. And for those of you who are not familiar with foreclosure, it's forms. Everyone has the case law. It's all form work with it's already there. So you're not,
Standard, using
yeah,
the same forms over and over again.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you're not really learning much of anything.
Mm,
And, I know tons of attorneys that they've actually got out, but they had to basically start back over from,
mm.
because their foreclosure firms were paying some good money for attorneys. Like, but
Yeah, that's probably why
yeah,
I never applied to foreclosure. I didn't even
yeah.
think, yeah,
Hmm.
I just knew PIP and that was all I knew. And I didn't
How'd
even
you get,
know.
how did you get into PIP? Is it because you were working in a law firm when you were in,
Yeah, dude.
in law school?
Yeah, so they were great guys. They hired me. I love them to death. I'll always appreciate them, and they taught me so much. I learned a lot. But I applied everywhere. I got a bunch of email addresses when I was in law school. I went to the Florida Bar website. I typed in, Miami-Dade County, and I just started emailing lawyer after lawyer. Hey, I'm a student at FIU Law. I need a job. I will do anything. And one guy emailed me back, and it ended up being my boss. He emailed me back twice because I emailed him two different times, I guess.
Hmm.
And he's like, "We need you to start right now." They wrote the
Hmm.
book on PIP for Westlaw,
Oh,
and
wow.
they're like, we need you to start right now. Can you get started?" And I didn't know anything, and I was like, I thought I did. I thought I was a student. I thought I was a good student. I didn't know nothing. I was terrible. I was a
Yeah.
terrible employee. I mean, I came in, I did my job, whatever, but I just the knowledge, like
Yeah. Yeah.
like it takes months and months, if not a year, to learn what you're really doing to understand it, right? And
Hmm.
so they were good with me. Great group of people, but when I graduated, I needed to make money, and so
Yeah.
they didn't want to pay me that much more. So I had no choice but to leave and go work on my own. But yeah, I would have stayed there if they had the money to pay me. But again, I didn't know anything. I'll tell you two funny stories. Um, they send me into a pretrial hearing. So in a PIP suit, let's say you're suing for $500. It's
Yeah.
small claims court. So I go to this judge in West Palm Beach. I bring her the joint stipulation. It's already signed by our office and by the defense counsel. And it says, hey, we want to invoke the rules of civil procedure. We don't want to use small claims rules. And here's the three copies, and I just need you to stamp them, judge, and I'll be on my way. She goes, no, 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 no. Sit down. You're not going anywhere. You guys just want to rack up fees. You want to invoke the rules so you could drag this out. Everybody gets money. No way. So I sit down at the end of all the people with their regular problems, like, normal people suing normal people over $500. She calls me up. This is my first court hearing. Calls me up, goes, I'm not signing that. So you got to tell your boss. So I call my boss and I'm like, hey, the judge won't sign it. She said that we just want to rack up fees and this and that. I don't know what to do. She's like, the female attorney's like, you suck. Get back here. You suck. I can't believe you screwed this up. This is like, you show them, they stamp it, and you're out. So I was so embarrassed. And then, so that was my first court hearing. But when I was on my own, everybody thinks it's like going on your own is great. Like it's a learning curve. I didn't
Of
know
course.
anything when I went out. And back then, this was before e-filing. And I went to the courthouse with the lawsuit, with a complaint, which, that's the lawsuit. And I show up and I go, hey, I'm here to file this lawsuit. And they go, okay, where's your check? I go, oh, damn, I didn't bring a check. Can you take credit card? And they go, no, we don't take credit cards. I'm like, what is this? They don't take credit cards. So I go back a second time with the check and they go, you need to have 3 copies. You need to have a summons. And so I go back a second time, another time now. And they're like, hey, where's the $10 check for the summons? Because to file a lawsuit is one amount. And then for every summons to serve somebody, you need $10.
I'm sorry.
And I'm just like, can you spot me the $10? I mean, I don't like, this is a pain in the ass. I got to come back. So it took me like 3 times. And then on the 4th time, I think it was the 4th time I was able to file it, and it was good.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, you sure? You sure we're good now? So it was, and all this over like $500 in unpaid benefits. It was a pain in the ass, but I did that. And within a couple years, I had filed so many, I want to say like 3 years. The courthouse in Port St. Lucie, exit
Mhm.
121. It's the annex, the South County annex,
Yeah.
calls me and they're like, hey man, are you going to keep, they're like, are you going to keep calling, are you going to keep filing these lawsuits here? Because if so, we're going to have to hire another person. Cause dude, I was banging all my lawsuits in Port St. Lucie.
Wow.
Broward, Palm Beach, Miami, they were backed up like 6 months to have a pretrial hearing.
Yeah.
So normally in a PIP suit, you file a lawsuit, and the first thing that happens is a pretrial hearing date. And it's supposed to take place, I think, within 60 days, but the courts were backed up. So it was like 6 months. I do it in Port St. Lucie. I get a pretrial hearing date in 30 days. And it
Yeah.
was on hundreds of lawsuits that I was filing back then. Now we're in the thousands. We're crushing it. But back then it was like a couple hundred at a time, you know? So, yeah. So that's like from going 4 times or whatever to them calling me, hey, how many you're gonna keep filing them here? Like, we need to hire people. It was a good couple years to figure it all out.
How did you get the business? Like, what were you doing? Because you were working, your clients were doctors, right?
Yeah, so in a PIP suit, you represent medical providers, could be
Mhm.
chiropractors, MRI centers, orthopedics, anybody that bills PIP insurance. And so, dude, I was just making phone calls, going to networking events, meeting people, getting their business card, knocking on their door. I would spend like 2 days a week, maybe knocking on doors, and then the rest of the days of the week in the office. So it was just a lot. I started an email list where I'm
Yeah.
emailing doctors updates on court cases. I started mailing them letters like, hey, I want to be your PIP attorney. And I mean, dude, these guys did not know what a PIP suit was at that time. Imagine having the same conversation over and over again, just with a different person about, I can get you money. Can you let me in your office and we'll find it for you? Like, and they're like, no, it sounds like a scam. And I'm like, where's the scam? I'm a lawyer, you know?
Mhm.
People are fearful of lawyers. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was that's how I would get them, dude. It was a lot of grinding and just networking events and just constantly contacting them, you know? I wish I came up with the idea of a podcast like you back then. I would have crushed it. Would
Well,
have
they
been a
didn't have.
YouTube sensation.
They didn't really. I mean, we know like back then
Yeah,
that this didn't really exist. I mean, those who got in
yeah,
like really, really early on YouTube and so forth are the ones with millions of subscribers and just every morning make a video and have a gazillion likes and make a
yeah,
100 grand on a video.
yeah. I
But
know.
it's I think it's a great testament to work ethic and a lot of younger attorneys don't really understand the grind to get there. They
Mm,
maybe think I get that job out of school, I'm making 160 grand a year, 200 grand a year, I'm gonna be at the big law firm. But a lot of
yeah,
those big law firms, they're only hiring from XYZ schools. And when
yeah,
you think about it from my recruiting experience, at the time, FIU was not considered a school that they would hire from. If you
yeah.
were you had to be like the valedictorian of the class, or one of
Mhm.
the top 2 in grades. Down here, it's UM, Florida, FSU was who they would
Yeah,
consider. But FIU has hit another level since you graduate. I mean, they are
yeah.
FIU's bar passage rates are through the roof, comparable to better than everybody else for the most part.
Better than everybody. We
Eh,
consistently
eh,
have the highest pass
consistently.
rate. Yeah.
And the requirements now to get into FIU are, I think, harder than the University of Miami at this point because one, it's the cost makes
Yeah.
everyone want to go there. But
Oh, yeah.
talk about as a FIU alum, you're 4 years out of law school and you're able to make a contribution to your school that, I mean, probably I'm gonna guess that in your mind, I mean, you were 29 years old, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
29. I mean, when you were 21 or 22 and working at Jamba, when were you working at Jamba Juice?
Damn, you did your
Like,
research on me,
of
dude.
course, I have a journalism background. Like
Oh, man.
when you're working at like the thought of I'm handing a check for $400,000 to the law school I went. I mean, I when you're
Oof.
doing it, are you saying like, am I really doing this?
Yeah. It was a little surreal when I
Yeah,
signed the agreement, and, yeah, it was tough. It's funny, I actually had a lot of hate from other attorneys when I did that donation. A lot of haters. They're like, "Who
of
is this
course.
guy? He's been practicing for a couple years. Who does he think he is?" And the biggest haters were the people my age that were working for $50,000 at that point, probably, because that was the job market.
Yeah.
And they're like looking at me like, dude, I'm making 50K a year and this guy's just giving away money. What the hell? And, I was very fortunate to make that kind of money that I could give it back. I wanted to do something to show like, hey, it's not just about taking. Everybody thinks lawyers want to take. I wanted to give back. At the time, we had Dean Acosta,
Yes.
phenomenal guy, super nice guy. Obviously, with the political environment and all that, he got wrapped up in that stuff with the Epstein scandal or whatever. He had nothing to do with that. He was the prosecutor of the case, but people felt that he treated him favorably because he was a billionaire or whatever. Super nice guy, really brilliant guy. And he talked me into it, and I had wanted to do something, but he pushed me to donate more. And, it ended up back then. I was kind of disappointed after I did it because I got so much flack from the haters out there, which I didn't know existed, but now I think people are more very, oh wow, great thing for you, because now I'm older. I think people are like,
Yeah.
it's okay. It's like, but it was a pretty big at the time. Yeah.
I mean, when you think about that, I mean, you're like, you have is it still named after you, the Ovadia
Yeah.
Career Planning and Placement Office?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. They kind of
Oh.
moved the sign. The dean called me. He's like, hey, Abe, we're moving the office to the other side of the building. It'd be weird if we have it on that wall because it's going to be on the other side. Can we move it? I was like, all right, well, yeah, whatever, man. I don't want to hold you back. And so they moved it, but it's definitely smaller than it used to be. I'm not gonna lie, but it's still there, and they name it after me. And I'll tell you, you were talking about job placement. When
Yeah.
I was in law school, no one showed up for from the big law firms.
Yeah.
Nobody showed up to do an interview. The
Yeah.
students were like, what the hell, man? None of these law firms came through to interview us. And then the ones like, that was like the first year. Then the second year, people showed up, but they didn't offer anybody a job. And then the third year was like they hired one guy, so people were pissed. They're like,
Yeah.
these they're not hiring us. But I think that motivated the students and the school to just be like, hey, we got to grind and do good. And I think that's why FIU is where it's at now, is because they started off and no one wanted to deal with us or knew about us. They would joke FI who, like
Yes.
who are you? So
I went to
yeah.
FIU. I mean, I have two master's degrees from FIU, and
Wow.
you know, but no, they definitely from where it began. I mean, it was a new law school, and now it's
Yeah.
like you said, it's doing they're doing amazing over there.
Hmm.
Your law firm is very, I would say, very like a family. Um, you have people that are very close to you that work with you and have
Yeah.
worked with you. I know your administrator, David, you're like best friends. I mean, talk about
Yep.
that. Having people that
Yeah.
how long have you known him, and people that you're really close to, where I mean, you go on vacations together, right? I mean, you guys are
Yeah.
very, very
Yeah.
tight. So talk
Yeah.
about that environment in that film, that like that family type of environment in your office, and
Yeah.
and
No, of
building
course.
building that.
Yeah. I think one of the reasons that I've been so successful and I'm able to grow at the pace that I grew and where I'm at is having really good pillars of relationships. I'm very relationship based. And David's been my best friend since high school. We went to Boca High together. Um, we hired, Alvaro. Alvaro's
Mhm,
been with me pretty much from the beginning.
mhm.
The second I could afford to hire him, I was like, hey, Alvaro, I need you to come work with me, man. Come on. He was my nightclub promoter back in the day. He would be the nightclub promoter. I call him, hey, can you get me in for free? Can you get me bottle service? Yeah, man, I got you. Come on through. He was the best, but he's also always on Latin time. So I show up. My mom's Cuban, but I'm not on Latin time. I'm on time, maybe I'm 5 minutes late. So I'd show up, the party starts at 9. I'd be there at 9 and he's still getting ready. He's like, no, nobody shows up till 10 o'clock. I'm getting there at 10. I'm like, no, I'm here. I need help, bro.
Oh,
Um,
man.
so when I went to law school, we kept in touch. And anyways, I was able to hire him when I could. And he came on the team and he's been a big asset for the team.
Mhm,
Chris, well, he's actually at the MRI Center now. We moved him over to Chief Marketing Officer for the MRI Center,
mhm,
Tesla MRI. So he's not at the law firm anymore, but he was with the law firm a long time, over 10 years.
mhm,
He's our really good friend's little brother.
mhm,
And this guy, best guy in the world. He graduated college and we were at his graduation party at his house,
mhm. Yeah.
and it's David's bachelor party. So he said the next day. So I go,
Mhm.
hey, he goes, hey, can I come with you guys to the bachelor party? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, if you want to get a flight, go ahead. and he
A
just
flight.
graduated. So he gets on the next flight to Vegas because we had our flight and it was sold out. So he gets on.
Yeah.
So we see him at the airport, and ever since then he's like, he's like, I want to work here. So like the next week we hired him. Neil is David's really good friend. I mean, I couldn't be where I'm at without guys like that. We've got a ton of girls too, as well. A lot of them worked over 10 years with us. They're just really good people. And I have this trust factor where I know, hey, this person is good. Like they're so-and-so's friend, they're so-and-so's family. We've got, I think, 3 or 4 families now where it's like 5 of them from the family that work here.
Wow.
Yeah. And so there's like 15 people in the company, 3 different families. They all have the same last name, you know? I'm very fortunate to have that kind of environment here where people, you know, they're like, hey, I like it here. Bring in so-and-so, bring in the cousin, bring in the brother, the sister, whatever. And it's been really good. And you know, the best part, my kid's dad, you just go to work to hang out with your friends. I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
I just hang out with my friends, you know, whatever.
That's
like, leave me
awesome.
alone. We get work done, you know? We're able to have good, straight conversations because we're not tiptoeing with corporate jargon, you know? I just say, hey man, you've been sucking lately, you know, like you're just heart's not in this, you know? Oh man, you're right, you know? So things are good. We can get a lot done.
That's awesome. That's nice to hear because in so many places people are just a number. They're like, oh, if something's going wrong and someone's sucking, you actually want to know why they're sucking. Whereas
Yeah.
you're sucking. Here's a write up. You're on a PIP now, a personal improvement plan.
I just
And
learned about those. I wish I knew about those earlier, man.
and in 30 days you'll be out of a job because in law firms, if they give you a PIP, you're not going to be there for more than 30 days.
Yeah. We just
Typically
started doing those. I love that.
Huh?
We just started doing those
Yeah.
performance improvement plans, PIPs.
Really?
I was like, this is great. Why didn't we know about this earlier, dude? This is wild.
But when you have that environment, you have that trust built in with your people and so forth, which I think is a wonderful thing. Talk about these other ventures you have. I mean, because you do have Tesla MRI, you have a VA scaler. Talk about Tesla MRI. Because obviously that's a big thing for you. I know you have the annual casino night, which is
coming up. I hope to see you, man. It's gonna be good. You always dress so nice, man. You're the best dressed guy at the parties.
I try.
Yeah.
But talk about that.
Yeah. So I started doing PIP suits, as you know, and one of the guys that owned an MRI center, we brought in $500,000 for his MRI center within 6 months. And he's like, hey, one day you're gonna buy this place. And I'm like, Doc, I love you. I don't know anything about MRIs. He became a mentor to me. He's a really good guy. Like, you ever meet somebody that's just a classy, straight shooter?
Yes.
Knows everything, knows how to handle tough situations and stuff like that. That's him. And he's like, Abe, listen, you're gonna buy this place. I'm gonna help you manage it and run it. And if you have any questions, I'm not disappearing. I'm here. And so I was like, all right. So I ended up buying it from him when he was ready to retire. He didn't want to do it anymore. So I took over. And man, what a learning curve. He was there for me. We ended up opening a place in Fort Myers, which was you watch Curb Your Enthusiasm, the Spite store.
I know. I watched Curb Enthusiasm. Larry David, yeah.
Yeah, in the newer seasons, because they had a hiatus and then they brought him back. Larry David went into Mocha Joe's coffee shop.
Yes.
And Mocha Joe gave him a tough time and he banned him from the store.
Yes.
So there was an MRI center in Fort Myers, and we needed a CD of the images for a client. And the client had a meeting with the orthopedic doctor that day. And they're like, hey, I need a new CD at this other MRI center. I need a new CD. Can you give it to me? I have the meeting with the ortho and they want to see my images. And the place goes, yeah, that's $100. And so he's like, I don't have $100. I was in a car accident. My neck hurts. My back hurts. I haven't been able to work. I'm going to go see a surgeon. Can you just give it to me? Can you bill it to my lawyer? What can we do? No, it's $100. We don't take credit card. We don't take word of mouth. You need a check or cash for $100 right now, or you don't get the CD. Wow. So the guy puts me on speakerphone. They're telling me this. And I'm like, listen, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I own an MRI center in Boca Raton. I am going to open up an MRI center in Fort Myers to put you out of business because you guys are ripping off people. I said, this guy, dude, a CD is 5 minutes to burn a CD.
Yeah. $100 for a
It's 50
CD.
cents. It's 50 cents.
Yeah.
So I said, this is unethical. You guys are scumbags, and I will put you out of business. And I'm not kidding you. This MRI center, I haven't heard about them in 2 years. They're gone. They don't get any patients because you reap what you sow. If you do a
Yeah.
shitty job for people and you're just about money, 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 you will go out of business. And that's been a mantra of mine for a long time. So anyways, we ended up opening an MRI center there because
Yeah.
of that place. And there's another group over there that's just total scumbags. They overcharge. They want too much. It's unreasonable. So I know what it costs. I own an MRI center in Boca at this time. So we opened up a Spite store over there,
A
Spite
Spite
MRI.
store. Did you go? No,
So
it's called Tesla MRI, but you
it's
go.
Tesla MRI, but I didn't know it was called a Spite store at the time until I saw the Larry David Curb Your Enthusiasm episode, and I go, "Oh my gosh!"
I opened a Spite store.
Yeah, and then we opened up in Sweetwater, Doral, right behind the Dolphin Mall. And then we opened up one in Aventura, one in Plantation. Our newest one's in Kissimmee that we just opened. And then we opened one in Kendall. We bought a place. For us, it's all about technology. We've got AI that gets it gets the patient on the table, off the table. It builds the image faster with the AI. So what might normally take 10 minutes now takes 5 minutes to scan a body part. So if I'm claustrophobic and I'm like, I can't be on this table for 10 minutes, like, don't worry, I got you for 5 minutes. We put on the AI and it just develops the image faster and it runs the protocols more quickly. And so patients are able to get on and off the table, the MRI scanner, in like half the time almost. And depending on each body part, or they're all a little different, right? We use 3T magnets in most of the centers, and they're wide, so it's more comfortable, less claustrophobic because it's a wider circle that you get into. And it's all about what the patient needs, what the lawyer needs, what the doctor needs. And we spend a ton of money on new software so that the clients can get all types of scans that they need. We started doing about a year ago scans for the FDA, Merck, Pfizer. Every time you take a drug, a pill from like the pharmacy, there's always some kind of a study going on to see what effects it has on your liver and on other organs. So we started getting into that as well because our machine is top-notch machinery that we have, the machines that we have, and we do X-ray as well. So that's how I got into it. If that place in Fort Myers didn't piss me off so much and ripping off my clients, I would have probably just stayed in Boca and had one place. But I saw a need and I said, I got to go. So, yeah.
Oh my God. So you also have VA Scalar, which
Yeah.
that's employing people in South America, correct?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean,
So
how did you get into that? Because I mean, obviously, like it's a lot of you're a lawyer, but you're a businessman.
Mhm.
You have a business mind to go in many different directions. Talk about what it was and what that is and how you got into that.
Yeah, sure. So this was before the pandemic. We needed people. And even before the pandemic, finding people that want to work was tough. It was
Hmm.
just hard. So I said, hey, I was talking with Alvaro. I was like, hey, we need to get more people. What do we do?
Hmm.
And we needed a call center specifically. We had a call center in Miami, and we hired like 4 people, and it was tough. One of the girls, she had her head shaved here on the side, and she's always vaping at her desk, and she was like 20 years old.
At
And I
work?
said, hey, yeah, and they actually passed the law. You can't vape in the office at this point.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, listen, you can't vape in the office. Like it's rude to the people next to you because they may not want to smell your vape
Yeah.
and inhale it, whatever. And 2, it's not professional in an office to do. She looks up at me and she goes, okay, bro. And we needed them because we do a lot of advertising in Spanish, which like our brand online is Equipo Legal,
Yeah.
the legal team. And so we got a lot of calls in Spanish and we needed people that were bilingual. So we were in Miami. And at that point, I knew we needed to get someone in South America. So we ended up going down to South America. We rented an office like around the 4th of July. Also, we did a lot of like website stuff, and finding people to build and design websites and do all that digital content stuff is really
Mhm.
expensive here. So I
Yeah.
was like, oh, perfect. We're going to kill two birds with one stone. We're going to open up down there. And we got an office, and we did it down there. And, obviously the wages, the cost of living is much cheaper.
Yeah.
And we were able to scale our law firm, which is why we named it VA Scaler. We scaled our law firm through hiring digital content media people, and also the call center, and it expanded from there to paralegals. I've got like 30 litigation paralegals over there that
Wow.
are badass, phenomenal, hardworking people. Like, we talk about, hey, we want to bring people to this country that want to work hard. These are those people. They work hard. Um,
And they work
uh,
for the law firm, or they work for other law firms as well?
yeah. So it started out just for me, and
Yeah.
then actually, one of my good friends who's a doctor I called his office one day, and nobody picked up, and so then he had a digital what's that, like a virtual
Oh,
receptionist,
yeah,
pick
those are
up,
those are
and they just
awful.
take a message.
They're
So I said,
horrible.
Doc, how'd you like to have somebody pick up the
Mm,
phone and actually schedule the patient or deal with it? It's a great
mhm.
idea. So I think we got, like, shortly after we were set up, within a couple of weeks, I think we got him one or two people down there. And he's been with us ever since for the ride. But since then, we just started hiring people for other lawyers and other doctors. I would ask
Wow.
around people that I know and say, hey, do you need anybody? And they're like, I don't know, man. Sounds kind of sketchy. South America, whatever. But people have been turning it around more. If you look at all these big businesses, right? When you call somebody, you get somebody in India, right?
Yeah.
Um, you know, Now they're starting to move some of these jobs to South America because these people want to work too,
Yeah.
and they're bilingual. You have the benefit of them being bilingual. Um, so now it's a separate company. I really have nothing to do with it further. I have a really good guy. He's a lawyer here in Florida, Sergio, and he runs the whole company. He's the CEO. He does everything. I'll connect him sometimes with friends of mine. I'll say, hey, this lawyer, this doctor, they need, they want to meet with you to just see how it works out and stuff. But he handles all that. We have over 200 and something employees over there now,
Wow.
and just a really good group of people that want to work and are bilingual. Um, and I recommend it for anybody that's looking for employees to do,
Mhm.
just to start off with simple tasks like, hey, picking
Yeah.
up the phone and finding out what they want and directing them to somebody. We send out our medical records requests, from there. Just all sorts of simple tasks that are not too hard. And now that we have them, the people that have been with us a long time they're like, hey, I want to learn more. I want to do something more elevated. Can you get me something? And they're like, sure. So now we have, case managers over there. We have litigation paralegals over there, and they're phenomenal, man. They work just as hard, if not harder, than somebody here in America. They just want an opportunity to work and then show off their hard work. So that's what I love about them.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So if there's any lawyers out there who need staff, can they reach out to you for potential
Yeah.
staff?
Yeah, absolutely,
Okay.
man. I'm
I
always
I
available.
I
Yeah.
I will have Abe's all his information in the description if you're an attorney and you're looking for staff, like this. Because I met you when I was doing digital marketing and Find Law,
Yeah.
and when you look at one of the biggest things when I was doing digital marketing was you call a law firm and you end up with an answering service and you get no one. You get asked 35 questions, and it's like you're asking me all these questions just to tell me, well, they're not here right now. I'll pass
Yeah.
the message along. Well,
Yeah.
you could have told me that in the beginning. I get asked all kinds of questions when I call into a law firm, but I think firms that definitely, when you're a new client or a new potential new client and you found them on a digital space or a billboard
Mhm.
or a bus or a bench or whatever it is, and they're calling and they can't talk right now or they're not available or whatever it is, they call the next person. you
Oh yeah,
know,
100%,
and
dude.
that was something that I always dealt with in the digital marketing space, because so many attorneys would tell me, well, I'm not getting business. Well, I'm like, do you answer your phone? Because
Yeah,
I've
number
called
one
your
problem.
office and you don't answer your phone very often, type of thing. So I think that's really great, especially, for, I think a lot for smaller offices. It's great, a great benefit to me, for sure. And obviously you have a number of them working for you. I
Yeah.
want to circle back to when, we were in the COVID time. You have all these people that work for you.
hmm
Was there some, I mean, accidents were way low.
hmm
Talk about was that a stressful time for you as a business owner? Because you mentioned all these family members who work for
Yeah.
you, and you're like, what? Cases are not coming in at the same level. I mean, unless you're doing PIP, and are we doing PI as well, or even
We were
PIP?
doing
Both.
both. We were doing both. Yeah, and so you bring up a good point. We actually pivoted to also take on homeowner insurance claims.
Okay.
So we started a homeowner insurance division, which we've since shut down. They got rid of attorney fees for
Yeah, that was
homeowner cases,
horrible,
which was
horrible.
the biggest insurance company bailout I've ever seen. It's like, let's say somebody comes to me, they have hurricane damage. They're not coming to me because their insurance company was like, "Hey, you got a hole in your house. Here's money for your roof."
No,
They're
my roof
coming to
blew
me because
off.
the insurance company's not paying them
Yeah,
enough to fix their
yeah,
roof, you know,
yeah,
let alone like the water damage stuff inside the home. So now I got to tell them, hey, listen, before I would tell them, look, I'll get you the money you owed, close to it, and I'll get attorney fees, and they're separate, But then when
yeah,
they passed the law to take attorney fees, hey man, it's going to cost you 40 grand to fix your roof, and I'm going to keep a third of it. How does that make you feel? And they're
yeah,
like, well, that makes me feel really bad. And I'm like, well, it makes me feel bad too. And so I said, I don't want to do this anymore because it just, it just, it it's bad enough dealing with somebody that has a hole in their roof. But now whatever I do get them, I got to keep a piece of it because
yeah.
the insurance company doesn't have to pay attorney fees like they've done for hundreds of years. So we got out of homeowners, but we pivoted to start doing homeowners. We it was actually, I'm going to tell you, dude, I read a book by Grant Cardone called the 10X Rule. At
Hmm.
that time, I started going
Yeah.
for walks. I was like, if I go for a walk, I'll be healthy because I was kind of fat back then. I started going for walks. I said, I'll be healthy and I'll listen to an audiobook, Grant Cardone 10X Rule. And I was like, dude, this guy is a genius. Like, this is the most I got all his books. I listened to every one of his books. I became a huge fan of the guy. He's a little bit controversial, the guy, whatever, but
Yeah.
his concepts on running a business were incredible. Then I read a book called Measure What Matters. That book, the guy reading it on Audible sucks. He sounds like you want to just blow your brains out. But the content in that book about KPIs, key performance indicators, blew my mind. We went from with PIP suits department filing, like 1 month we do 50 lawsuits. The next month we do 500. The next month we do 200. And after reading this Measure What Matters and then the 10X Rule book at the same time, I said, hey, we need to do 500 lawsuits a month. Let's just see
Yeah.
how it goes. And I talked to the departments and I was like, can we do it? And Brittany, who's on my team for more than 10 years, she's one of those pillars that I was talking about. Fantastic person, just works hard. She's like, yeah, I think I could do it. So we started hitting 500 a month. And then after that, I said, could we do 1,000 for like after 2 months? Then I said, could we do 2,000? Dude, I made more money reading those two books that it cost me maybe 10, $15 a book. I made so much money with those concepts. I mean, you're talking about millions of dollars of information from those two
Yeah.
books. And I during the pandemic, I was freaked out, dude. I was every day stressed out. Like, is the world going to collapse? Are we all going to be attacked by zombies? And then on top of that, I got to run a business,
Yeah.
So those books, they were a godsend for sure. And I was able to, I made more money in the pandemic than I've ever made because of those two books. And it gave me the confidence to like continue to grow the business in the pandemic. I had my employment law lawyer tell me, Abe, you need to pick 10 people
To fight.
and fire them right now
Oh
for
God.
COVID. She's
Yeah.
like, things are going to get bad. And it was good advice. It was good advice. She said, your 10 people, you find them and get rid of them. And I was like, all right, everybody's like a family here. It's tough to do that. But I had to make that call because, when your lawyer gives you advice, you jump on it. So I did that. And then, we ended up hiring new people like a few months later because of all the lawsuits we were filing. And it was pandemic was tough, but those two books came at the most perfect time to help me out.
What are those books called again? Because I'm sure a number of attorneys probably need to read them. In fact, I'm going to read them.
The 10X Rule Book by Grant Cardone, and Measure What Matters. I forget the guy's name. Measure What Matters. The guy, they call him the coach. He grew and scaled Google, Facebook, Amazon, all those big tech companies, Oracle. He was the guy who said, hey, you need to have KPIs, key performance indicators. Everybody has to have a job, but their job has to be based on a number. So you need to file 500 lawsuits this month. You need to file 300 motions to compel. You need to do XYZ number, and that's your job. And so from reading that book and those concepts, I mean, dude, it was like my mind was just expanded so much. I was like, that's how you run a business. Nobody teaches you how to run a business out of law school. Law school is about the laws. I thought I had a business until I read those books, and I was like, this is genius. Like, we need more of these books. So yeah, they were mind-opening books.
So I know there's been some changes in PIP law. So are you still doing the PIP suits? Or is that winding down, or
no, man, we're
what's
ramping
happening?
up, baby.
But didn't they change the laws on PIP?
Yeah, they did. They also outlawed cocaine a long time ago, but people are still doing it, bro.
My God. Oh my goodness.
Leave that in. I want
I
people
will.
to know.
Absolutely.
They did get rid of attorney fees for PIP suits. However, we're still doing it. We're charging a percentage. We charge like 25% to send a demand letter, 25% to file a lawsuit. Whatever we collect, we charge a percentage on. If we don't collect, we're not owed any money.
Okay.
And we are crushing it right now. Even though the attorney fees are gone, most of these insurance companies pay right away when we sue them, because they're like, dude, there's no fees. We don't want to pay all this money to their own lawyer. So they're just settling it with me right away. I'm not making as much money as I used to make, but we're still giving them a really tough time. In the old days, you'd make $3,000 just for filing a lawsuit. They'd send you a check for $3,000 in attorney fees.
Yeah.
If there was a viable issue, right? And now they, I'm getting way less than that, but I'm still, in terms of the lawsuits, we're going after them because there is money to be had, but we have to hit a really high volume of cases to get to where we need to go.
Yeah.
But we're doing okay with it, but the number of lawsuits, we're still pushing them out there. We're not giving up on the clients, and we're still hitting them hard. Yeah.
So you're married, you have how many children? And
I got 2 kids and a beautiful
Yorkie. You were telling me earlier a palm frond that looked like a dog.
Yeah. I'm blind. Without
vision.
these, I can't see. I saw there was something in the bushes, and it was a palm frond, but without my glasses, I thought it was the dog. And I'm asking my wife, I'm like, babe, is our dog okay? What's it doing in the bushes? And she's like, our dog's in the other part of the house. What are you talking about? So yeah.
And I bring up I know you have a son that does Lego construction that I've seen, which I mean, all I can think about with Legos is stepping on them and wanting to kill somebody.
We don't have that in my house. We build them.
But how did he? I mean, that seems like a thing that y'all are into together. He's into, and I've seen you do videos of it on Instagram and on social media. Were you ever into Legos? And when you see him into this, you're like, do you ever sit there and like, how the hell does he build this? Because like you got to follow instructions, and most of us can't follow the instructions, right?
Yeah. No, he's really smart, and he's good with instructions. He's a little bit like me. His mind wanders everywhere. I'll catch him I say, hey man, go brush your teeth. And he's just walking around his room. I go, did you brush your teeth? And he's like, oh, I forgot, and he's just walking in a circle in his room. And so his mind's always like mine, just wandering, thinking about something. But with the Legos, he sits down, he reads the book, he puts them together piece by piece. It's funny. When he was like, I don't know, 3 or 4, I put him in front of a Lego set. And I said, hey, just build it. And, he got to like a little bit and he stopped. And so I noticed when I sit with him to build the Legos, and if he got stuck, I would help him with that one piece and then he'd be on his own. And that really, he took off from there. This kid built so many like really cool Lego sets. And then I started getting into it because I was like, man, I can't let this kid beat me. So yeah, I know. I just saw a funny reel on Instagram. It said, I don't work out to look good. I don't work out so people see me and say, oh, wow, this guy's got a great body. I work out to terrorize my son so that when he's 28 years old, he'll be scared that I'll beat him in a foot race or a bench press, So with the Legos, I couldn't let him get one up on me. I'm competitive too.
Yeah.
So I started building the same one sometimes or a different one, similar one. But we just finished building. Actually, it was a really cool moment for me as a dad. My daughter, me, and my son, we all built a third of the X-Men Lego house, like the mansion, X mansion. And we built a third, and then we put them together. And I was like, oh man, I love this family, dude.
That's
my
awesome.
wife is not into Legos for some reason.
Oh, of course not.
She puts them together sometimes, but it's really my son and then me.
Yeah.
And my wife gets pissed, dude. They know me at the Lego store, like that's bad. That's bad. They're like, hey, how you doing?
It means you're there a lot.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, she's like, really? I come home, I have to hide. I feel like I got a side chick or a girlfriend. I'm like hiding the Lego sets in the car. I'm like putting them under the bed so she can't see them, and I'm pulling them out when she's not around, and I'm like building
Oh
them,
my
putting them back.
gosh.
Yeah, dude, she gets pissed sometimes when I come home with 3 giant Lego sets. They ain't cheap either.
No,
But
they're not cheap. Yeah.
yeah, she gets pissed, dude. But yeah, but it's something to get him off the screens for one, and to just to expand his mind and get him to do something. He got into basketball. I know you're into sports. You're big into football.
Yeah.
He got into basketball recently, so I'm hoping that continues and get him out of the house a little bit.
No, the video games with kids today is ridiculous. I mean, my kids live on this damn PS5, PS4,
Yeah.
Xbox, all that crap. And it's like, I remember the days of Nintendo and Atari 2600, 5200, ColecoVision,
Pitfall,
Sega
Atari,
Genesis, all that stuff. I want to run back real quick because you had told me a story some time ago when I guess it was before you had started the company in South America.
Okay.
But you told me a story, and correct me if I'm wrong. There was an employee that you were wondering who, like, he wasn't doing anything, but they'd always show that he's on the keyboard or something. And when you
Oh,
found out, you put on some
yeah.
keyboard stroke thing or something like
During
that, and
COVID.
he was just
Yeah.
that was because they were working from home or
Yeah.
something like that, or,
Yeah.
whatever.
I
And,
remember.
and apparently just hitting like one key like all day long or something.
Dude,
Tell me that story because that
yeah.
story that always sat with me.
He was a good guy. He just was lazy. And so I have this guy, he's a good friend of mine. His name is Ian. He built Salesforce for us. We did a demo of Litify, and they wanted like $250 a user each month. And you have 50 users. That's a lot of money each month for a software.
For sure.
My previous software was called Act by Sage. It was $200 for the forever or something.
The whole thing.
It was like dirt cheap. Like I was like, how does this, so anyways, maybe it was like, I don't know. It was like $100 a year per person. And you only needed half the licenses. They didn't, anyways. So he was like, oh, I could build Litify for you. It's just Salesforce. All they do is white label Litify on top of Salesforce. So I was like, really? And I didn't believe him. And he built it for me and it looked beautiful. And this was like 6 months before the pandemic, something like that. So we had this ability with him and my awesome IT guy, Neil. We had this ability to go remote, like snapping the fingers, and we went remote. So when the pandemic hit, I said, hey guys, I don't want anybody to die on my watch. Like, we don't pay you enough to die. So go home and work, bring your laptop and go home and work. Take your work monitors. Everybody's got 2 monitors. Take them home and work. And so everybody did that. And we got this software called ActiveTrack. And ActiveTrack is this awesome piece of software for any law firm, any business, and it shows you productivity. And basically, this guy was working from home, and his job, I think he was to send out reduction letters. So like a doctor bills 10,000. We asked the doctor to take a piece of that, not the full 10,000, so our client can put more money in their pocket.
That's what we do all day.
Right.
We
And
do
you guys do a
reductions for
phenomenal
offers.
job. You
Thank you.
guys have gotten me, like, I'm talking about with the easy ones, but
Yeah,
like with
of course.
hospitals and Medicare,
Yes,
you guys
of
have done
course.
this incredible job for us. I want to thank you for that.
You. Thank you.
So this is like on the easy ones with like a chiropractor or an MRI center or whatever. And instead of sending them out, he's like, hey, instead of saying, hey, I finished my work, can I get more? Didn't do any of that. He found a device. So the first day, it said that he was 0% productive, right? 0%, but he was on the computer. And we're like, hey, listen, bud, it says you're not working. Your computer's on, but you're not working. And he's like, oh, that's so strange. I don't know. That's weird. So the second day, he downloaded this thing called a mouse jiggler. And basically, like, you have your mouse here, and it just jiggles back and forth digitally. So your mouse goes from here to here to here to here, here, like that. And so we have ActiveTrack, and it's like, yeah, this guy was 100% productive the next day. And I'm like, that can't be. So on ActiveTrack, it'll tell you. And it said that this guy used a jiggler. And I'm like, what a piece of shit. Like, we called him out the first day for not working. So instead of just working, he decides he's going to do this. So when we had to do the 10 people layoff thing that my lawyer advised,
he was one of them.
He was in that group for sure. Not a bad guy. It's just like work ethic, it just comes down to work ethic. And, but the best part was his excuse, like, when you get caught with your pants down and you're like, dude, I'm sorry, bro. This man said that he put the mouse in his pocket, and that's why it must have been doing this weird thing on the screen. And I'm like, if your mouse is in your pocket, how the hell are you working, you dummy? Like, why would you say that? Yeah, my keyboard and mouse was in my pocket. Like, obviously you're not working either way, dummy. But good guy, just one of those things that, like, people want to play the game sometimes instead of doing the work. And, you asked me earlier, I remember when I first started, dude, I worked 24 hours a day some days. I worked 15 hours a day often, but sometimes I ran the clock. I just kept working and working because I had shit to do. Yeah. And I didn't say like, oh, it'll get done later, I'll do this later. Like, no, my clients needed stuff, I got it done, dude. Yeah. And that's the kind of attitude that, people want in their lawyer. Yeah. If you're doing PIP suits, they want to get their money collected. If you're doing a personal injury case, they want their phone answered, and so it just comes down to work ethic. But that was I got a million crazy stories like that.
That story was classic. Because when you think of stuff like that, it's like, when people are criminals and you say like high level criminals are very intelligent. It's just if they actually put their mind to doing the right thing, they would be just as successful if they were doing stuff legally. But they put their mind on doing the quick fix, the quick money, the quick win. Yeah. And it's just like that. He was so into like what was that? What was he? Ingenuity, or what was the word? I mean, thinking like, okay, how do I get around this? I got an app that's gonna make my mouse move, and this is like, if you actually put the effort into the work, like, you could be like,
he probably spent more time figuring this out. This was before AI. You had to go to like Reddit. You had to type in, hey, this is how they do things. They called me out. What do I do? You had to wait for a response. Like, I don't know. Like I said, good guy. It just comes down to work ethic, man. It just comes down to work ethic sometimes.
So you wrote a couple of books as well before we go. You wrote a couple of books you were telling me about. I mean, in a story where I guess one of your books got to someone and
Yeah. So I wrote a book for my clients. We wrote it in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. It's just car accident claims, what you need to know. It's nothing earth shattering in there. If you've been in a car accident, well, probably not that, but if you're an attorney, all the stuff in that book, right? Yeah. It's just simple stuff in an easy to read format for a regular Joe, regular guy, regular person. And so we give it to our clients when we sign them up. And it's posted on Amazon. Like, if you type in Abe Ovadia, it comes up as the books. And some guy bought it in Seattle, Washington. And he's like, hey, man, I was in a really bad car wreck up here. 18-wheeler truck hit me. I got a brain injury. I hired this lawyer in California, but never answers my phone. I don't know if I made the right choice. He's telling me to just sit tight and let things go. And he's like, do you want to be my lawyer? And I go, listen, I'm in Florida. I don't do Seattle, Washington. I don't know if your California lawyer is the right person for you either, because he's not in Seattle, Washington. And if you have a brain injury, do not sit tight. You need to get a DTI MRI. Talk to your doctor about what is a DTI MRI. And yes, you need one, right? Talk to your doctor about therapy for your brain injury to find out what is a appropriate therapy for your brain injury. Sitting tight is no good, no bueno. English speaking guy. But we have it in English, Spanish, and Portuguese, like I said. And I was shocked. The guy called me and then offered me this case where he's hit by an 18-wheeler truck in Seattle. But Portland, Seattle, I don't know, same thing. But that was really cool. And the reason he called me on my cell phone is because I put in the back of the book my cell phone number. I say, hey, this is my number since I'm 18 years old. If you want me, call me. Here's my number. I'm around. And you know, it's funny, dude. I put my cell phone everywhere. Do people call me? Not always. You know what I mean? But I want people to feel like they can call me, you know, like they can get a hold of me if they need to. And it's just like a call like that was I was like, damn, I did the right thing.
Yeah. That's a great story. I will link the books in the description as
thank
well.
you.
Abe, let everyone know where they can find you. Doctors who need PIP suits, people who are in accidents who need, you know, representation, you know, your office locations, all that good stuff, which will be in the description as well.
Yeah. So our law office locations are Boca Raton, Miami, Sweetwater, Miami, Orlando, downtown Orlando, and then Fort Myers. You know, if you guys need to get a hold of me, you can email me, abe@wesetthestandards.com. And then the website is wesetthestandards.com. If you want to hit me up on my cell phone, 561-305-6317. If I don't answer, just text me. Like you, I get a ton of spam phone calls. And I'm always around and available if you want to chat. So thank you for hearing me out.
I appreciate it, Abe. I thank you so much for jumping on with us today. Everyone, again, this is Abraham Ovadia, owner, founder of Ovadia Law Group. He's doing amazing things and will continue to do amazing things in South Florida and around the country. I appreciate him coming on with us today. I thank you so much. This is a legal legend for you. Like I said, we're the Legal Legends podcast. Abe Ovadia is a legal legend. Oh, by the way, he does have a podcast called Legally Exhausted. Exhausted or exhausted?
That's exhausted. Yeah, legally exhausted.
And I was on his podcast, and that was a lot of fun. Are you still doing that?
Yeah. We do them. Yeah.
Okay. So if you're an attorney or you're interested in being on his podcast, you might want to reach out to him there because he has lots of viewership, man. I appreciate it again. Legal legend Abe Ovadia. Thank you so much. We will see you all really, really soon. Thank you.
Thanks, bro. You man, Rudy. Take care, buddy. Peace.